Isopod.
And I'm going to disagree because Stage 2s make me nervous. I like Stage 2s, I play Stage 2s, big fan of the Gardevoir deck we've got at the moment. But there's something about Galisopod, it's the speed of Galisopod. You go first, and then on your second turn, you've got that Galisopod ready to go, but it's a single energy attacker. So actually, one option you've got is attach an energy somewhere turn 1, stash it on a Pokemon, then turn 2 you're going. Now we've just seen Robin Shulz, here we do see Gustavo Wada on the screen. Now, he's going to be playing Zoroark, he's going to be playing Decidueye like we said, but he's got Tapu Koko in there, he's got Espeon EX in there for that Miraculous Shine, that devolving attack. We've seen quite a lot this weekend already, and he's playing free Max Potion, which, let's face it, we've seen that quite a bit this weekend as well. Max Potion is really making a comeback this weekend in the Pokemon trading card game.
I was just about to say, Max Potion always seems to be the card of the weekend. So many lists, even the Gardevoir list that have opted not to focus on it, as we said, was kind of the hype build of the deck going into the tournament. There's still so many builds, even the Sylveon versions, playing just 2 copies just for, that extra little bit of staying power, which could be the difference between winning or losing a game.
And when you've got a Pokemon like Zoroark who attaches for a double colourless energy, or like Decidueye that's got, 240 HP and you may not be attacking, your opponent hits it, doesn't get the KO. Hey, good news, you're not getting the KO. I've got a Max Potion. Although, speaking of healing, obviously Galisopod, and looking at Robin's list, he's playing free Ace Roller. I'm willing to bet we're going to see more than one Galisopod this game be hit and then not be KO'd. In comes Ace Roller, and a single 120 damage for a single energy, then using Ace Roller to recover it. I mean, just so good.
Indeed it is. Just having a quick look at the prize cards here. We'll get them up on the screen shortly to show you guys, but it seems like the prizes from Gustavo's side got a couple of Zora, double colourless Decidueye, a Rowlet and a Rare Candy. The double Zora is a bit unfortunate for him, but kind of workable. And on Robin's side, we have pretty much a mixture of things. He has prized Bridget, however, he's playing free Bridget, actually. I just realised that on his list, so that is not an issue at all.
No, that's not a particular problem there. Although prizing 2 of your free Zorua really is for Gustavo. So, probably not much Zoroark action. Speaking of which, we've got a Zorua on Robin's side of the field. We've got a Rowlet on Gustavo's side of the field. And we're not going to see much attacking in the first couple of turns. These are not turn 1 attacking decks. We're going to see a Bridget from Gustavo. I'm willing to bet we're going to see a Bridget from Robin here. And we're just going to see some evolutions. When we've got these evolutions rolling, then we're going to see them going toe-to-toe. Robin is under more pressure here, though, because as we saw with Daniel Altavia earlier in the tournament, if these Decidueye decks get going, if they get to the stage where they can use multiple Feather Arrows every single turn, they can overwhelm Pokemon. Yeah. Robin needs a better start.
Yeah. And one thing you were saying earlier, Ross, about how playing Stage 2s makes you nervous, I think that there's a very good reason for that. There's been, for pretty much a very long time within the Pokemon trading card game, there was just a general nervousness about playing Stage 2s because basics were just so fast and hit so hard that there was just no real means of Stage 2 decks to set up with the newer, because of course with the old Rare Candy ruling you could evolve things much more quickly, and so Stage 2s were a lot more reliable in that sort of sense, but then Rare Candy, they changed it, so Stage 2s became a lot slower, and so they fell out of favour for ages, but now they're coming back with a vengeance, especially, and almost like that mentality of everyone changing their thought process, think, right, Stage 2s are fine, makes them more fine by consequence, because you know that the first turn or 2 of the game, people are going to spend them playing in Bridget and setting up. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if that makes sense.
Well, the funny thing is, the thing that I find quite ironic, the best thing that happened to Stage 2 Pokemon was the basic Tapu Lele.
Yes, actually.
Tapu Lele being able to search for any supporter on turn 1 made Bridget great. Now everybody plays Bridget turn 1, so every deck has an extra turn or 2 to set up, and it really helps. Speaking of setup, Robin's not great. Tapu Koko in the active, Zorua and Mr. Mime on the bench, no energy on board, no Wimpod out. It's not great.
No, he played an N hoping to see something and just basically saw a load of nothing instead. He was able to retreat the Zora into the Koko, but then after that was just forced to pass.
And he actually was put in a position where he had to bench the Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime protects damage to the bench, not damage counters, but he could not N and just leave a Zorua in the active. Couldn't do that. it could be KO'd by a Zoroark too easily, so he had to bench that Mr. Mime. Now he's wasting a bench space on a Pokemon that does very, very little. Good news though, Gustavo is giving him a new hand with an N. Hopefully he's going to draw slightly better off this one than he did off the last one.
Yeah, even just like a Wimpod of any sort would have been good for him to see. He has prize 1, but there are still 2 left for him, so it was a little bit unfortunate that he wasn't able to... there's a Wimpod now in his hand.
That's good, and he's got the grass energy, but again, he didn't get the energy down last turn. Maybe he gets a Zoroark double colourless energy and that gives him an attacker. Outside of that, it's not ideal. Although, speaking of not ideal, Gustavo, 1 bench Pokemon short of being able to get the KO. Having said that, I love this play. You save a bench space so that later on you can play Tapu Lele, search for a supporter, and let's face it, at some point Gustavo is going to have a Decidueye. 1 Feather Arrow KOs that Tapu Koko, and mid-turn KOs give you extra cards in the middle of a turn, and that is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no... Unlike with many decks where doing that with Tapu Koko would be almost a waste, because you have access to Feather Arrow with Decidueye, it becomes the opposite. It becomes the perfect opportunity to exploit later on, and as you said, Ross, take that prize mid-turn, have more cards to work with, and really make your opponent feel like, oh, it's a lot more awkward when something is KO'd for you in that situation.
Now, Robin's taken a bit of a risk here, and it has paid off. He needed that double colourless energy. He, Professor Sycamore, getting rid of 2 grass energy. He drew 0 energy. That last card off the trade was, he almost discarded 2 energy and got none in return, but he pulled it off right at the end. Now, he's Enhanced Hammered to get rid of that double colourless on the Zoroark, and crucially, he gets the first hit.
That is actually even more risky than you can absolutely give him credit for, because something we haven't mentioned is that Robin only plays 4 grass energy. Given that he discarded 1 to retreat the Zora earlier, that means that he actually only has 1 grass energy left for the entire game.
And I'm looking through his list. I'm not seeing Brock's Grit. I'm not seeing Super Rod. I am seeing 4 Puzzle of Time, making it a really interesting list. We're going to have to get into this at some point, Nick. But Puzzle of Time will allow him to recover those, but you're right, he's down to 1 basic grass energy. We don't usually talk about, on turn 2, he's running out of basic energy. That is the case in this game.
Yeah, and then even sort of taking that to the next level on Gustavo's side, he's only playing 2 grass energy as well as 4 double colourless.
6 basic grass between 2 grass decks. That is quite impressive. So we do see 130 being done there. 100 for the 5 Pokemon in play added to the choice band. What I love about that, even without the choice band, Robin has a KO on that Zoroark next turn. So Gustavo has got to get out of the active, and that puts him in an awkward position. He can do some damage, but when Zoroark is against Zoroark, you want to be the first one using Riotous Beating, and Robin actually got that. So that little subtle play of putting the Tapu Koko in the active really worked. Even though it's going to be a prize he's got to give up, it's going to work out for him.
Oh, and actually, Gustavo just had a very, very ugly Sycamore. He's supposed to discard another Sycamore, plus, after attaching double colours, he's supposed to discard another one. Again, as we've actually just said, he does not run a big count of energy total, let alone basic energy. Granted, we're talking about double colours discards there. He does play 1 special charge, which he can use to shuffle back in the double colours, which is exactly what he's just done. Almost exactly on cue. But if you hadn't seen that special charge, that Sycamore would have been really, really ugly for him.
It really would. I could see something had caught your eye there, Nick. And yeah, you're right, that Sycamore, not ideal. That's why you got to play stuff like Special Charge. Oh, but we see the Max Potion there. You know what's really funny? The Enhanced Hammer got rid of the double colourless so that the Max Potion didn't need to. So not only does he get rid of the damage done from the attack, but in a weird kind of way, he's like, well, I would have lost it anyway.
Yeah, just the tilt factor perhaps coming into play there.
I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt a second there because, of course, the thing I did miss, he could have used the double colourless to retreat, which he didn't get from the Enhanced Hammer.
Okay.
So still a very good play from Robin.
Yeah, that's very true. So from Gustavo's side, before passing, he actually opted to do Feather Arrow onto the Zora, kind of thinking to himself, hold on, maybe I can just hold off on KOing this Tapu Koko. It's got the 100 damage on there now. I don't need to KO it straight away. I can just hold fire until maybe I really, really need a prize. Maybe after getting end to a low hand size in the late game or something like that. That's actually really clever from Gustavo.
I love this. Or even just until you got 1 prize remaining, because the great thing is, we know that Robin plays Ace Roller, but you don't play Ace Roller for Tapu Koko. You play it for Golisopod, for Zoroark. You play it to stop your 210 HP 2 prize Pokemon from being KO'd and giving up, shockingly, 2 prizes. Not for your single prize starter, the one with which you want to start the game. And he's kind of saying, look, either you're going to waste an Ace Roller, or I'm going to get a prize when I feel like it. Either way, I love the position Gustavo's putting himself in here. It's a really nice, subtle play that's working for him really well.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And this is something actually we've just seen. Mentioned Puzzle of Time earlier. He's actually just drawn into one of his Puzzles of Times using trade, and now he can do a couple of more trades. And this is the reason why he's playing Puzzle of Time in his deck. When you have draw engines built in like this, where it means that you can top up your hand without getting rid of the rest of it, playing Puzzle of Time makes a lot of sense, because if you already have one, you can use your abilities to try and dig for the second one and actually make use of the play 2 effects to get 2 cards back from the discard pile.
I mean, Puzzle of Time are so many games. I've had one in hand and a Professor Sycamore, or I've had one in hand and had to play an N. But like you say, you can keep draw the second one. It's 4 cards in your deck, which are only for the mid to late game, which is very awkward in the early turns. And we did see Robin had a slightly awkward start. That is going to happen in a deck like his. He's playing free Wimpod, he's playing free Zorua, and then he's playing things like 4 Puzzle of Time. He's got to make sacrifices to fit those cards in, but if you can make it to that stage in the game, you are going to have a huge advantage.
Yeah, definitely. From Gustavo's side now, we do see just an Ultra Ball for the Tapu Lele, going to bench it and use one attack just to grab himself a Sycamore, just to see some more stuff. A double colours going onto the Zoroark as well. It's going to be great for him. And basically able to do the old Sycamore without actually discarding anything, which is exactly what you want to happen.
Yeah. Bad thing about Sycamore, discarding cards sometimes. Obviously, sometimes it works.
Yeah.
Good thing getting a new hand of 7 cards. When you don't want to discard and you don't have to, and it's just, hey, draw 7 cards. I mean, if there was a supporter card that let you draw 7 cards, everyone would play 4 copies in every deck. And when Sycamore does that, it's pretty nice. Now, we do see 2 Decidueyes on the field, and we got a Dartrix there. Gustavo is doing what Gustavo wants to do. He is getting to that stage. He's not given up a prize yet, and he's getting set up. And when he's got 3 Decidueyes on board, speaking of which, he's got 3 Decidueyes on board, going back to what we said about Zoroark. Well, now Zoroark doesn't do 120, Zoroark does 180.
That was an absolutely outstanding turn from Gustavo. He's able to rare candy one rather into a Decidueye, evolve his other Dartrix into a Decidueye, so now he has 3 out. I swear this is only possible with Forest of Giant Plants. What's going on, Ross?
He's just ignored that Forest of Giant Plants has been rotated. He's like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I'm good enough without it. And of course, now he's got the option. The combination of Decidueye and Espeon is great. 3 Decidueye means 6 damage counters per turn. Zoroark has 60 HP. So put 60 on a Zoroark, 60 on another Zoroark, then you play an Espeon, Miraculous Shine, get rid of the Zoroark, put it down to a 60 HP Zorua. Oh no, they've already got 60 HP on them. They get KO'd immediately, and okay, it's 1 prize, not 2, but it's less about taking lots of prizes and more about wrecking your opponent's setup here.
Right, Ross, I have to draw attention to something that happened just here. So Robin did a trade, and he was able to draw into another Puzzle of Time. He then did a second one, and then drew into a Mallow, though, but sadly now he's run out of trade, so he can't do the combo of using Mallow to put 2 cards on top of his deck, and then, search for any 2 cards. It looks like instead he's going to opt to play the 2 puzzles together, go for an Enhanced Hammer on the Tapu Lele, that's going to be very strong, and a Guzma onto the Zoroark as well. That's actually an incredible turn.
And, of course, that free retreating Tapu Koko. Now, we did say, Gustavo's winning by leaving that Tapu Koko with 10 HP remaining. Right now, Robin is incredibly grateful for that, because you play a Guzma, you need to switch, and now he can put something else in the active. Probably, I would imagine, the Golisopod, but he could go for Zoroark instead if he preferred. Either works here nicely. They both get the KO, and now Robin's in a fairly nice position, but of course, Gustavo here could potentially have a free prize turn if he just uses Feather Arrow onto the Tapu Koko. Now he's got a bench space to use Espeon. Double Miraculous Shine would then KO both the Zoroarks, but it looks like he's just using Energy Drive to get 1 KO, and you know what? He gets 2 prizes this way. I'm cool with it.
I think he didn't have enough feather. He's used all 3 of his feather arrows on the active, and then did Energy Drive. I think he needed to do that in order to get the KO. I'm not sure if he would have been able to do enough otherwise.
Excellent point. Either way, he's got the KO. And Espeon, that damage isn't going anywhere unless Robin plays something like an Ace Roller, and he's only got so many of them, and it's his supporter for the turn. So, you don't want to really Ace Roller a Zoroark with 6 damage counters on, but he might have to. Otherwise, it's getting KO'd by an Espeon. And it's the pressure. It's forcing your opponent to make those decisions they'd rather not be making. Gustavo's got 4 prizes left, but he could have prizes where he takes 2 free prizes, maybe even a 4-prize turn in a couple of turns' time, using those feather arrows to spread that damage. And Robin has nothing that can one-hit KO a 240 HP Decidueye GX.
No, one of the biggest sort of strong points of Decidueye back when it was, the sort of commanding force in the format it was as well as obviously access to evolving through forest of giant plants, was the fact that along with the abilities it had 240 HP, which is just an astonishing number. Sort of when it first came out, we didn't really sort of know what impact the stage 2 GXs would have with having those high levels of HP, and so many times we'd see things just not be able to deal with Decidueye on the basis of that it was just so tanky, as well as putting on all this offensive pressure with Feather Arrow.
It does a lot of damage, Nick. It does an awful lot of damage, and it's 2 damage counters per Decidueye per turn. And initially 2 damage counter doesn't look like much, but over the space of 3 turns, that's 180 damage. That is KOing a GX Pokemon for 2 prizes in 3 turns without even using your attack. Now, at this stage, both players, we've gone back to a little bit of caginess. We're not seeing lots of big KOs, so Robin here, he actually used his GX attack, crossing cut GX, 150 with the choice band, 180, KOing the Lele, and it's as if they heard me saying, we're not seeing big KOs, and Robin's like, actually, Ross, I got news for you, boy.
yes, you do. Crossing Cut GX is one of those really strong extra assets that Glycerod almost didn't even need to have it to be a good card, but the fact that it does turns it from a good card to a great card, because although the normal strategy with it is, to just, do these constant first impressions, just do a consistent 120 damage. Sometimes you just have a big thing you need to deal with, and so Crossing Cut GX, 150 damage plus the extra 30 from the choice band doing 180, again, it's a magic number. It knocks out so many things, including Tapu Leles. And not only that, but the extra effect to the attack means you have to switch it to the bench Pokemon, switch it to the bench rather, and then bring up something else, so then it protects itself as well, and then next turn you can just bring it active and do first impression with the extra damage again.
And as I look at Gustavo's board here, I'm thinking it's Espeon time. Now, unfortunately, he's not actually got enough Feather Arrows. Now that he's KO'd the Tapu Koko, it's not possible. With 3 Feather Arrows, he could have put the Golisopod onto 8 damage counters. Miraculous Shine would have then devolved both the Golisopod and the Zoroark, and KO'd them both, and Robin's board would be Mr. Mime, Wimpod, Tapu Lele. It would not be a great board. Unfortunately, that is not an option he has now. And now is he doing 1 Feather Arrow? Because it had 2 damage counters on previously. He's used 1 Feather Arrow. And he's doing 1 to there, 1 to the Wimpod. I like this a lot. Spreading the damage around, putting Robin in an awkward position. And it looks like he might be considering using that Hollow Hunt GX attack here. The Decidueye's not getting KO'd. Hollow Hunt takes 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. And he's not got a great turn now, but he can guarantee himself a good turn next turn.
Yeah, Hollow Hunt is a super strong GX attack. One of these GX attacks that's more for sort of like recovery and setup, kind of, rather than putting on lots of offensive pressure. But Gustavo's going to be able to use it to get back some of those precious energy resources, which, as we said earlier, he does not have many of. So he needs to be able to recover those in any way he can. And looks like there he's going to opt for the Floatstone, the Double Colorless, and the Zoroark. He kind of has to go for the Floatstone here. Something that you said, Ross, is that maybe he could go for a play with the Espeon EX, of course, but the Decidueye has a retreat cost of 2, so without a Floatstone on it, he wouldn't have been able to retreat into the Espeon to do that, and he'd already committed the energy that turn anyway.
No, of course, and that's the awkward thing, it's easy enough for us to sit here and go, right, well, let's just use an Espeon, but it's not always that easy. What I love about his turn, and I think the 3 cards he got were perfect. And here comes the inevitable end, which, to be honest, when you see your opponent use a Hollow Hunt, it's just like if you see a Big Wheel GX from a Drampa, or if you see Metagross's GX attack.
The algorithm.
You basically look and go, okay, my opponent, I know they've got an amazing hand. I've got to play an N here. And Gustavo, he could have got the Zoroark, he had a double colourless energy, he had a Floatstone to get out the active, or he could have just used a Razor Leaf, which I don't think would have been a great call, because he would have had a bunch of damage on. But either way, it's all gone now. And now he's getting a new hand of free cards. Even though Robin here does not have the Feather Arrow, even though he doesn't have huge attacks, he's whittling Gustavo's Pokemon down. He's playing very carefully. And I think he's putting himself in a driver's seat in this game.
Yeah. We do see there he did draw a Puzzle of Time off of the end, and then he did trade to top of his hand a little bit more. Didn't see anything that useful off of that though, so it looks like he's going to be content with an Armor Press. So this attack does 100 damage, but then next turn, any damage that Golisopod takes is reduced by 20. So this could maybe be a little bit annoying for Gustavo. I'm not sure he would have had the KO if it weren't for the Armor Press. I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes in that regard, but if Robin were to keep Armor Pressing, that damage reduction will sort of build up, especially if Gustavo is not able to take a one-shot.
Oh, and this is a big end from Gustavo here. He needs a Float Stone and an energy. We saw him use a Max Potion to heal that Decidueye, our old friend Max Potion, because the thing is, he's not going to put the energy on Decidueye. He needs the energy on Espeon. So he can afford to get rid of the energy. Does he get Float Stone energy?
1 out of 2. He gets the Float Stone, but not the energy.
Trade,
trade. No.
Oh, he misses it. Gets the Float Stone, whiffs the energy, and I love not attaching a Float Stone here. Attaching the Float Stone means that your opponent can drop a Field Blower to get rid of it, and then you've wasted putting it down. I like leaving it in the active. 240 HP means that it can take a hit, so you just leave it there and go, you know what, I didn't get the combo this turn, maybe I'll get it next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was Ultra Ball there for the Tapu Koko again, just thinning out his deck of anything that won't be useful to maybe improve his odds of top decking something good. Now, Robin has drawn a Puzzle of Time for turn. He does have access to one Zoroark GX trade. He's going to decide what he wants to discard. It's going to have to be Acerola or Field Blower. And it looks like right now he's opting to discard Field Blower, given that there's nothing really that he can use it with, but he was not able to see the second Puzzle of Time, unfortunately.
At this stage in the game, that was a really bad trade. Of course, you don't know, the cards are random. But Mewtwo is a tech for, let's just call it a matchup that isn't this. Bridget is a great early game card to get all your Pokemon out. And this is the downside of playing Free Bridget. Free Bridget is a lot, but it means you've got a much higher chance of drawing it without having to rely on a Tapu Lele. But then you might draw into it late game. Good news, Ace Roller.
Yeah, Acerola is able to bring out the Golisopod back into the hand. Now Robin, the card's attached as well, so now Robin has the double colourless to attach to the active to actually attack this Decidueye, but this Zoroark is not... It's been softened up quite a bit already. It's taken 60 damage, so it only has 150 HP left. I'm not sure how much of a difficult time Gustavo will have carrying this. He just does draw into the Float Stone again. Or rather, he already had it, but he decides to actually attach it now. He's got a Max Potion too. There's no drawback to using that because, of course, there's no energy on the Decidueye. And is it going to be an N here, it looks like?
I think a double colourless will win him the game here. Because if he plays a double colourless energy, he's hitting for 120. That'll put Zoroark up to 180, which means 2 Feather Arrows. Oh, no, wait, he's got 3 Feather Arrows available. So I think at this stage, Gustavo is really just looking for the double colourless. And I don't believe he used trade, did he?
He did.
Oh, he did use trade.
I'm sure he did.
Oh, he hits a double colourless. Retreat. Attack with Riotous Beating. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the game. Gustavo wins game 1. Good news is we got half an hour and up to 2 games remaining.
Yes, we do. So Gustavo able to see exactly what he needed off of the Enter 2 desk. As we see, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But in that case, it absolutely did.
That was lovely. Of course, like you said yourself, Nick, an Enter 2 is not as bad when you've got trade. If you've got Zoroark and that fantastic trade ability, you can go, look, I know I'm actually playing an N and getting 2 cards, but I know that next turn I can play trade to get another 2 cards. But, that was... I mean, it had to be done. It was his route to victory. It was the only good play at the time. But playing that Enter 2, and when... I mean, Robin's an amazing player. There are times when he's literally #1 in the world on championship points. So he knew that Gustavo won the game if he drew a double colourless energy. And there's just that kind of feeling of helplessness of, I know he wins if he gets this. But then you go, he's only getting 2 cards off the N, and you do the mental calculations. How many double colourless energies he played? How many cards does he have in his deck? What are the odds of him hitting it? And then, of course, they put it down, and it just... And Robin played that game so well.
Yeah. And we have to give credit to Gustavo as well. Something that we have neglected to mention. We mentioned his top 16 finish last year and actually his top 8 finish in 2016. But he is a former world champion. He won the world championship in 2011 in the juniors division.
That's pretty good going.
It's pretty good going.
He's a fairly good player. Now, of course, do remember that we have that Twitter poll I told you about, your favourite Ultra Beast GX. Just go to twitter.com/Pokemon News UK, or just go to Twitter and search Pokemon News UK. Either is good. We are going to be sharing the results of that poll with you on the stream later on today, so make sure you go and vote, because if you don't go and vote in that poll, your favourite might lose by 1 vote, and that's on you.
Yep, you're going to have to live with that decision. That could have been me. That could have been me, but no, you just didn't turn up. But that's why you got to go out there and vote. Anyway, back to the game. So both players are now just setting up here, ready to go. Looks like it might end up being a mulligan for... Oh, not quite. He's able to find himself Tapu Lele, talking about Robin here. But he does have 2 Zoroark in hand. Hopefully he won't have to get rid of those.
He's got a Bridget in hand, Nick.
He has
pretty sure I saw. And this, we saw in the last game. Using a trade, drawing a Bridget. Why am I playing free Bridget? This is why he's playing free Bridget. Because you play the Bridget, you search for 2 Zoruas, and then turn 2, you're going, boom, double Zoroark. We are good. And now, speaking of good, something that isn't good, he's got 2 Golisopod GX prized. That is not ideal.
Considering that's all that he actually plays.
Yeah, if you play 2 Golisopod GX, and both those Golisopod GX cards are prized, that is not good at all. If we look at Gustavo's prizes, it's a bit of a mix, nothing terrible.
Yeah. The one fortunate thing for Robin is that assuming he takes his prize cards in normal order, people will take them. Both those Golisopods are actually at the bottom of the prizes, so this should be the first prizes that he picks up.
And let's face it, Zoroark has pretty much the same HP as Golisopod. Most of the time does the same 120 damage, so if you're not being hit for weakness such that you're actively avoiding using Zoroark, it doesn't really matter whether you use Zoroark or Golisopod, except Zoroark's got the ability. And of course, stop me if you've heard this one before, Nick, but after Robin goes first and uses a Bridget to search free basic Pokemon, Gustavo's going second and using a Bridget to search free basic Pokemon.
It is kind of what's become the standard turn 1 play of Pokemon right now, because, I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
It's amazing. And the funny thing is, we had Bridget since Breakthrough, and it saw a little bit of play here or there, but people just went, look, I'm not playing 4 in my deck, I'll draw into it when I don't want to, and I'm not playing 1 because the chances of having it early when I need it are bad. You know, it's the chances of having it just not high enough. And then Tapu Lele comes out and everyone's like, oh, sweet, I'll just Wanda tag for it.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, why wouldn't you, right? Because with that, it means that... Because one of the issues with Bridget's setup thing before was that a lot of the basic focus decks were EX focused, and of course Bridget has that stipulation where if you use it to grab in EX, you can actually only grab 1. It's only recently that a couple of things happened. First of all, a lot of the setup decks now are actually set up with non-GX Pokemon, because of course it's the non-GXs that evolve into the GXs rather than GXs being all basic like EXs were. But there's no stipulation that you can't grab, say, a basic GX and 2 or rather multiple of the same one as well. So that means that if you do want to grab, say, like a Drampa and 2 Trubbish, as you do in Drampa Garbodor, you're actually allowed to do that.
Oh, yes. And the funny thing is, you look at something like Landorus EX, has the same first attack as Buzzwole GX. You can have 1 Landorus, you can have 3 Buzzwole. Speaking of frees, Robin's on turn 2. He's got 3 Zoroark GX. He literally played the Bridget having a 2 Zoroark in hand. He used a couple of trades, used an Ultra Ball to search out the 3rd Zoroark GX, and he's sitting there on turn 2 just going like, no pressure, Gustavo, but I've got 3 Zoroarks out already.
And, I mean, at this point, that kind of means that those Golisopods and the prizes, do they even really matter? I mean, he's got 3 attackers ready already.
Well, the one big difference is that Zoroark needs a double colourless, whereas Golisopod needs a far easier to grab basic grass. But actually, given that he's playing 4 of each and that Gustavo is not playing Enhanced Hammer, Robin, incidentally, is playing 2 copies of it. No, it doesn't really make any difference. He grabs a Wimpod, but he's played an Ultra Ball. He knows the Golisopod are prized. The difference here is, if he draws those Golisopod as prizes, he can then immediately evolve the Wimpod up into a Golisopod, and then it's ready to go, rather than going, oh, I've got Golisopod, now I can bench a Wimpod. So Gustavo here, under a lot of pressure, he gets the first Decidui. It's going to take more than 1.
Yeah, it is. Although getting 1 out so early on is a really good strong start for him. Was it put 1 for that arrow onto one of the bench Zoroarks? Robin doing a couple of trades, was able to discard one of his spare Bridgets, so that's already good for him to see that, gets it out of the way for later on. Not really... He's got all 4 puzzles of time in his hand. No, he's got 3. One of them is an Enhanced Hammer. Okay, that's still a lot though.
That is quite a lot, and I love the Enhanced Hammer. Now, There is a part of me that's thinking, has Gustavo put the double colourless on Tapu Koko to try and almost bait Robin into playing the enhanced hammer so that later on in the game Gustavo can put the double colourless onto a Zoroark where it's far more useful? I don't think he has, but that's certainly something I've seen players do in the past.
Possibly, although I mean, Gustavo is a well-known player, and he knows other players. He must know that Robin is not likely to fall for something like that. So I don't know if that's necessarily what he was thinking there. He might just be. I mean, he could do. You can't really read players' minds in that sort of sense. But
our jobs would be so much easier if we could, Nick.
Yeah, indeed they would. Looks like Robin actually. Speaking of thinking, Robin is thinking of playing those two puzzles at a time together. He is going to go for it. Yeah, he's going to go for it. So, but what's he actually grab here? It looks like, oh, of course, he needs to get a supporter so he can get that Tapu Lele that I was discarded earlier. Maybe he could get back that grass, just to put it on something, or no, it looks like an Ultra Ball.
And you talk about mind reading, Nick. Here's the thing. You don't need to be a mind reader to know. Robin wanted a Tapu Lele. When you play Double Puzzle of Time, so you can search your discard for any two cards, generally, most players just grab the two cards they want, they know what they're after. But when a player grabs one card and then starts searching through their discard, that generally tells us there was one card they really wanted, and now they're really debating that other card that they want, and there's no bad thing here, but it does mean that he's maybe not using Puzzle of Time as optimally as he was like. Now he has no choice. He needed to get this supporter. It had to be done. But it does slightly diminish the usefulness of it. Although, still got on a second card which will be useful. And you know what's better than using an Enhanced Hammer to discard an energy, Nick? Just KOing the Pokemon with the energy already attached, so you don't need to waste your time playing an item card.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Of course, Robin having the full bench set up right now is doing 120 of Rise's Beating, which is enough to KO that Koko, although Gustavo brings it straight back with the Rescue Stretcher, so he obviously feels like this card is quite important to have, and he wants to make sure that he has ready access to it if he wants to be able to power it up later. This is another thing, and I think this is actually more than likely the actual reason Gustavo had that double colours on there ready. He just wanted to make sure he was able to attack with it by switching into it the next turn, because one of the strategies that this deck can employ, one of the strategies that any deck can employ actually, is they play Tapu Koko and Espeon EX, is just do a few flying flips and then use the Espeon EX's Miraculous Shine to devolve everything. Say for example, if Gustavo isn't able to set up enough Feather Arrows with Decidueyes to really make the most of that Miraculous Shine, Flying Flip is another way to get there.
And let's not forget, there were turns in the previous game with Gustavo where retreating would have won him the game earlier. Free Retreater, it's always good having a Pokemon with free retreat on your bench ready to go. Now, Robin here he's in setup phase, but he's taking prizes. And what he's doing beautifully here, he's taking little prizes. He gets rid of the Zorua, and he's 2 prizes up. And he's not had to really power up a Pokemon. He's not had to 2-hit KO. He's not had to really extend. He's just taking little KOs on comparatively low HP Pokemon. One of the things that Robin's deck struggles with is big KOs. Well, you don't need that if you're KOing lower HP Pokemon.
Yeah. Something that's actually quite interesting is that it looks like Gustavo opted to... Okay, I actually completely forgot. I'll come back to you on that one, Ross. Just there was something that happened last time, which I was thinking that because with the flying flip... No, never mind.
No, we're all right. Well, there is an Ace Roller coming down, and this is what I was talking about in the previous game. Robin doesn't want to play Ace Roller to pick up a Zoroark with 6 damage counters on. What he really wants is something like a Metagross to come in and hit it for 180, and then Ace Roller when he's just about to be KO'd. Well, what we see here is, I've got 6 damage counters on. That means Miraculous Shine will KO me. I've got to play my Ace Roller. And
I've just remembered what I was going to say.
Go for it, Nick.
Robin last turn opted to knock out the Zora instead of he had a Guzma in hand, which he could have played to knock out the Tapu Koko again. But what he just realised, and actually what he's just done, is that if Gustavo just does 1 flying flip, that doesn't really achieve anything. He needs to do like 2, maybe even 3 to get the most out of it. And so by doing that, he almost forces Gustavo to bring up the Koko, do the flying flip once, but then he knows that he's not going to KO the Zoroark. So then Zoroark does Riotous Beating and KOs the Koko, and now I'm fairly sure that Gustavo's out of Rescue Stretcher, so he can't bring it back to do Flying Flip a 3rd time.
And that is an issue, because right now, his ball state isn't looking good. I have said how great it is to be able to do 2, 3, 4 Feather Arrows in a turn. 1 Feather Arrow in a turn, it's better than nothing, it's nice damage, but it doesn't add up fast enough. It doesn't get you where you want to be as fast as you want to be there. And it looks like Gustavo's actually conceding this game very, very quickly.
Yeah, indeed he is. So we will be moving on to game 3.
And I like this. This is good because, I don't like seeing a player concede, but what I do like is there's 18 minutes left. I don't like draws. I like a winner. I like two players to go at it, to give their best, to use their decks, use all their tricks, and one player to, rise above and come out on top. Ties are a necessary part of the game. If we had unlimited time rounds where we couldn't have ties, we would have incredibly long tournaments. So I like it when a player goes, you know what, this isn't working for me. Partly, it's nice because it's nice to have a winner, but also it shows Gustavo. Gustavo does not top cut the World Championships by getting lots of ties and ruining his overall number of match points. Gustavo top cuts the World Championships by winning or losing, but mostly winning. And you do that by conceding games early, going, right, I'm not going to win this game. Maybe I've got a 10% chance of winning, but I would rather concede this game and have 15, 20 minutes to actually win a game free, because that is the most likely route to getting me a victory here. And that's how you end up with a record of 7-2 rather than a record of 4-0-5.
I could not agree more. This is one of the big things that I think, especially when players who are starting to get to that stage where they know how to play the game well, they probably maybe even could top cut a tournament, but they sort of miss the mark every single time, is because they don't know. It's a mixture of not knowing when to concede at the right time, but also just not playing fast enough. Something else we've seen Gustavo do, he just physically plays his cards really, really fast. As soon as he's fought through his move, he knows what he's going to do, and then he just goes bang, 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 and he does it all. And that's why, look, they have 16 minutes left to play this game free. That's not really happened in that same way in some of the previous games we've seen. We've seen that he's maybe gone to game 1, and then they just have enough time to finish game 2, and then game 3 ends with no one doing anything.
Indeed. Weirdly enough, we had pretty much exactly 1/3 of the round to go when we started game 3. That amuses me. Now, we have got a Rowlet from Gustavo. We've got a Wimpod from Robin with that ridiculously good Wimp Out ability. You start with it, and even though you play 4 of these, just so you can once per game use the ability on one of them, it's basically just a way of going, you can end your first turn with whatever Pokemon you want active, especially if you've played a Bridget, which, let's face it, we know you're 90% of the time going to have played a Bridget. It's such a ridiculous ability.
I will say as well, although it seems like a bit mean, I think the ability name is actually just great as well. it's like implied, because Gallistopod is just going to come in and do a lot of damage to your opponent, but it's just like, well, it's a Wimpod, it's just like, nah, I'm out of here. See ya.
I like to think of it, if he's retreating, he's just kind of like, but I'm coming back in a couple of turns, and you won't like me when I've evolved.
I could not agree more. And a really good Bridget from Robin as well, he was able to find the Tapu Koko, and that's like the perfect thing to retreat to off of Wimp Out, because then next turn you can just decide, do I want to attack a Zoroark, do I want to attack a Gallistopod? I can actually choose between the two, because as we mentioned so many times, Tapu Koko has that amazing free retreat on a basic. There's so many. I think I've said this about 5 different times already, but I'll say it again because it also holds true for this. Tapu Koko, like a consistent checkbox of like good facets of a Pokemon card. Great HP, a great retreat cost, and an amazing attack.
It's pretty nice. Now, one thing that isn't nice, Gustavo didn't have a Bridget. One thing I found interesting in game 1, Gustavo plays a single copy of Bridget and was just like, yeah, I've started with it. I've opened with Bridget. Whereas Robin has to play 3 copies to try and do that. But then game 3, the key game, he doesn't have a turn 1 Bridget. Doesn't have an Ultra Ball, doesn't have a Lele, has nothing he can actually do here. And I'm looking at the prizes, and I've got bad news for Gustavo, because he's got 2 of his 3 Tapu Lele prized, and he's got 2 of his 4 Decidueye GX prized. That is not great.
That is far, far from great. And Robin should really be able to capitalize on this now, because as we saw there, Gustavo just played the N and wasn't able to really find much off of it. Just like one Dartrix, which evolved the bench Rowlet, but other than that, not really much of anything.
We could be seeing a very quick game 3 here. I think Gustavo conceding that previous game was absolutely the correct choice. He gave himself enough time to win a legitimate game 3. And we pretty much started, right before the game started, Nick, we discussed whether we would rather play Zoroark with Gallistopod or Decidueye. I told you Gallistopod, and my reasoning was I don't trust stage 2s. Gustavo's a much better player than I am, but look at this. This is why I'm scared of playing Stage 2 decks, because sometimes you have a turn where, you know what, I've had 2 turns, and I've got a Rowlet and a Dartrix.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you there, Ross.
do.
Robin just had the perfect trade there. He discarded a puzzle of time, drew 2 cards, drew a Grass Energy and a Tapu Lele. So now he can just use the Guzma, bring up the Dartrix and Kara, and Gustavo drew past again?
Gustavo drew past, which means double colourless wins the game for Robin here on an Armor Press or a Crossing Cut GX or a Guzma with a double.
And he can guarantee it.
He plays Mallow.
Yep.
Mallow lets him search for any 2 cards and put them on the top of his deck. Trade guarantees him drawing those 2 cards, so he plays Mallow, puts double colourless, uses trade, grabs it, and Robin Schulz wins a very quick game 3 to take the victory 2 games to 1.
Wow, and it is like you were saying, Ross, it is unfortunate that the game ended that way because conceding was absolutely the right decision, but sometimes that can happen. Your deck just doesn't cooperate with you, and Robin is able to really capitalise on that.